3,000 years ago in the land of Israel. That's the biblical Israel, not the modern state of Israel. A lot of weirdos conflate the two for some reason. There was once a king named Solomon, considered the wisest of all mortal men. He was also one of the freakiest of all mortal men, with a roster of hoes so deep they could fill up the Dead Sea. Being so freaked out distracted him from properly using his wisdom and building the great temple that his equally terminally freaky-ass dad David promised he built. So, early into his reign, Solomon did the practical thing, which was use a magical ring blessed by God that let him summon and tame demons to build the temple for him. The equivalent of a contractor trafficking Mexicans over the border to work for him and then calling ICE on them later so he wouldn't have to pay them for their labor. This is the only instance of a man summoning demons and it working out in his favor. Despite this, countless midwit-ass occultists since have tried to follow in Solomon's footsteps and conjure demons for their own purposes. It never works out well for him, as has been the case for Tarl Warwick, aka StyxHexenHammer 666. As tempting as it is to call Styx a LARPer, he's really not. He's the real deal, a dedicated occult nerd who takes his herbology, astrology, and demonology very seriously. It's not the byproduct of a midlife crisis, and it's not a fad. The occult journey of Tarl Warwick is genuinely one of the most in-depth in occult history, with Styx documenting it himself across countless videos over years of near daily uploads and social media posts. And this careful self-documentation of Styx through various phases of his life lets us observe in real time how he went from an eccentric libertarian Satanist to a toothless pirate evading the arm of the law and making vids off a bummy laptop from his girlfriend's place. And he'd do all of this while worshiping a demon owl. Tarl has been online for a long time. He's been one of those guys who made his channel and started uploading his first videos in the emerging years of YouTube as a platform. And they're about what you would expect out of a self-admittedly socially anxious Satanist in his late teens and early 20s who literally calls himself StyxHexenHammer 666. Now, Styx isn't actually a Satanist, at least not anymore. He used to be, but disavowed it a long time ago.
I am a former Satanist. Around 2010, 2011, I was a self-proclaimed independent Satanist. First and foremost, never joined the Church of Satan, never even supported them. To tell the truth, thought it was gimmicky. Satanism is a radical ideology of self-preservation and indulgence. It's atheistic in form, it doesn't have anything to do with worshiping the devil, and the vast majority of self-proclaimed Satanists you'd ever meet do not believe in Satan.
See, Satanism is just goofy. It's a bunch of LARPing atheists pretending, for the most part, that they worship Satan mainly to mock Christianity. And that ain't the case for Styx in his occultism. It wasn't just a phase he went through to make his religious parents mad. He really does take this stuff seriously. Tarl's history with spirits, especially the residents of hell, goes back to when he was a kid. He's always been in touch with demons. Occasionally, a little too in touch.
Cooking Inferno, my 2 succubi, names withheld, should help. Get yourself some succubi. Had one once. I was on Salvia Divinorum one time, and had sex with a demon. I'm not going to bother explaining further.
But the one demonic entity encounter that changed his life the most was with a spirit named Stolas.
I've told the tale, of course, when I was younger. When I was quite little, I don't even think I was in elementary school yet. I don't even think I was in kindergarten yet. I saw a demon. Specifically, later on I identified it as Stolas from the Ars Gotia or something akin to that.
He's one of the 72 demons that King Solomon summoned to put to work on his plantation while he sipped on sweet tea. Despite Stolas' greatest claim to fame being one of 72 unpaid day laborers for the horniest Jew of all time, Styx resonated strongly with him. This brings me to a very interesting quirk of Styx, among many. It's not just that he worships an owl demon. Quite a few people, LARPers and true believers, worship demons and devils. What makes Styx in particular stands out is How? He venerates his owl daddy. He ain't cutting wrists, offering animal sacrifices, or having ritualistic orgies in his infernal lord's name. His relationship to Stolas is that of an entity he puts his complete trust in, a spiritual companion who guides him through turbulent periods of his life, who's helped him grow and develop as a person, and who he shares a strong affinity and personal bond with. Now, some of you are probably thinking, Mikey, isn't that just Christianity without Jesus? Yeah, basically. Stolas is Tarl's surrogate Jesus. He's different though, cause he's an owl and he teaches people about plants and minerals and shit, and he also won't woke scold Tarl about drinking too much or fucking BPD hoes raw and then talk no jutsuing them into abortions. If you're wondering why that last one sounded so specific, just bookmark it. We'll be coming back to it later. Styx's history with occultism is so long, girthy, and robust that it's worth a whole video in and of itself. Bro has a WordPress site dedicated to it and has published several books specifically on this topic. But the other side of Styx that would earn him his YouTube popularity and briefly let him break over 500,000 subs was his political commentary. Now, credit where credit is due. Styx ain't the quartering where he just started leaning into politics after spending years making non-political content. Styx has been using his channel to yap about politics for as long as he's been yapping about demons and conspiracy theories. Initially, the occult and conspiracy theories got more views on average than the political ones, the occasional political commentary banger notwithstanding. This would gradually change as we entered 2016 and the election cycle that year started revving up. Styx was an active commentator throughout it, talking about his happenings, bashing the establishment and old media's coverage of it, and going off a lot about why Hillary Clinton was a terrible candidate. He would also scrub through the WikiLeaks controversy thoroughly. Styx made clear though that he wasn't automatically a Trump superfan with a MAGA tramp stamp just because he was railing against Clinton.
Do not confuse my disdain for Hillary Clinton as being adulation of, worship of, or blind approval of Donald Trump or Donald Trump's policies.
The anti-Clinton content in particular is what really got Styx's channel popping among a non-occult audience, with those videos getting consistently good views, including a viral doozy of a vid from Styx he posted just a few days before the election called "The Clintons May Be Involved in Child Trafficking."
Alright YouTube, WikiLeaks actually tweeted out an infographic which had been compiled by Reddit on, I believe, the Donald, involving a person called Laura Silsby, who may be involved with the Clintons on a business level on multiple occasions. So the Clintons may be involved in child trafficking.
Before election night even came, Tarl's political commentator news slopper star was already shining in the sky like Lucifer, before he started causing trouble at home and his big bro Michael had to whoop that ass. Styx, while still not a mega millennial or even that much of a conservative, found himself solidly on the right side of the aisle just on the basis of deeming Hillary the worst option available on the left. And come election night, a lot of people agreed. Styx would take a short victory lap for calling the election more accurately than most, including pretty much all of the media. And this is where Styx's MAGA journey would begin. But again, he wasn't gonna go with the usual right-wing grifter strat and play pretend Christian conservative for easy views. Styx already had his own spiritual and political beliefs. The libertarian demon owl devotee persona wasn't going anywhere. Styx would become very supportive towards Trump, however, seeing him as the anti-establishment figure that, while highly flawed, America could still use at the moment. Him hopping aboard the MAGA Express would see his channel grow even faster, as would his participation in debates with other political influencers and commentators, from the skeptics to the dissident right. Styx would debate Nick Fuentes twice, and he'd be part of an infamous Warski live debate stream featuring the all-star cast of Carl Sarganavacab Benjamin, Joseph Pierre Gerpi, Richard Spencer, and himself. All the autism and fallout from this stream in particular made Styx have to stress again that he wasn't part of any clique or internet faction or even really a conservative at all.
Here's something that I've noted, and it's really, mostly it's in the wake of the Spencer debate, and I can assume probably the reason why is that debate sort of encapsulated the debate between the hegemonic core of the alt-right and the hegemonic core of maybe the skeptics or people associated with Sargon or his general mentality. Like when you get creators and they have a disagreement, all their fans, they suddenly become so polarized, it's like looking at two groups of football fans. Again, I'm not a fucking football team, dude. I'm a content creator. I don't have any enemies. Look, there are no enemies for me online.
He was his own man on his own hippie libertarian journey who didn't want to be shackled by dumb labels. He didn't care about all that. He didn't care about his videos getting demonetized either. He just accepted that it came with the game he was playing, and like a proper capitalist and self-sustaining libertarian, made digital revenue from multiple streams and platforms.
One thing that I did long ago is I realized that the ad-driven internet was a bad idea. So I don't have ads on my YouTube videos. If you're seeing an ad at all, it's there due to some copyright glitch or something. So I started taking donations. There are links in the description to Patreon and Subscribestar. I started selling books. I've got over 200 volumes available as of making this video.
While some of these books were just reformatted public domain occult texts he had just published online, some were about his own original occultic studies, and some were full of peak fiction like the following. Manson continues to beat Satan over the head for some time, with the helpless Hellion on the floor, crying, putting up no resistance at all, as he's too injured to do so. With one almighty swing and the aid of a toaster, Satan is dazed as his skull is impacted. Seeing their leader gasping on the floor and too confused to do anything, the demons simply grab pitchforks and begin dancing around him, stabbing him in the cock with their weapons and laughing. Satan cries out in chagrin as Manson plots a little more revenge for Satan's naughty behavior. He removes the now cooled iron from Satan's dick and rips his own pants off, the violence making him horny, and slams his own 8-inch member into the...
Man, it's like, where is God in this conversation?
Some were books about botany, which is another passion of Styx's. He ain't no stranger to herbs. One of the reasons for a strong affinity to Stolas is because Stolas is all about teaching his cultists about that herb and how to blaze it up just right. To be clear, Styx doesn't really care about Mary Jane. He's more of a Gwen Stacy or Felicia Hardy type of guy, and didn't grow any cannabis in his own meticulously maintained garden. Bro took his greenery very seriously. He had Botany 101 dedicated to his psychedelic homesteading activities.
Episode 3, Salvia Divinorum. I decided that I was going to play it safe. I got a 5 times extract and smoked a very small amount of it my first time. You're gonna see weird shit. It causes full-on visual hallucinations beyond LSD, beyond psilocybin. On my most funny trip, I took roughly a bowl of 10 times extract. I took several large hits of it. I was on the phone with my friend at the time, and it kicked in. And my computer began to change. I saw it smoking, like the top of the computer was melting into the ceiling, like it was dissolving. The keyboard turned into a cobblestone road, and I felt myself pulled down it, and to me it felt like I was walking down this road. And apparently what I told my friend, and I was sort of half out of it at the time, of course, because salvia.
Now some of you psychedelic skeptics might ask, Mikey, couldn't Styx putting himself through all that disruptive brain chemistry experimentation for so long have had long-term consequences on his cognitive state in the future? I mean, yeah, it's possible. But the more obvious culprit in Tarl's eventual cognitive decline is his drinking problem. While every other substance he puts in his body for spiritual research purposes has been somewhat well regulated, the liquid spirits have been a whole nother story. But the thing is, unlike somebody like the Quartering or Only Use Me Blade, who've been slaves to the bottles since they've had their first drink, Styx recognized how bad his drinking habit was and how it was affecting his life and decided to quit. Yes, Styx actually did, back in June of 2017, announce that he had quit drinking. Now this could have all just been talk with Styx still taking shots.
Pause.
behind the scenes, but it did look like Styx was really trying to make a change. See, by the latter part of 2017, he was starting a self-transformation journey, a metamorphosis of sorts, and not just the dyeing your hair and turning bisexual sort. He was entering a point of his life where he was starting to cross-examine his vices and excesses and get himself in order. This is something I call the rail clutch. It's when somebody momentarily enters a state of metacognition when it comes to their own self-destructive tendencies and tries to abruptly change course before they go off the rails. In my experience while making lolcow documentaries, rail clutching is pretty common. Almost every person who has eventually become a lolcow has had at least one major rail clutch phase in their lives. They almost always end up failing and becoming lolcows anyway, but they did try to course correct at one point. In late 2017 was the beginning of Styx's rail clutching arc, and it started with him laying off the sauce for good. So far as was verifiable, the only thing Styx was drinking besides water after his sobriety announcement was coffee, which he always clanked his fucking spoon in.
If you're interested in things like this, you can get your coffee on in the morning, and you can drink out of your own Styx mug. And you should definitely leave your spoon in when you're drinking coffee. It makes it taste better. Trust me, it's just the way it works.
That shit was so annoying, dude. Got made into a meme, and he ended up giving his fans some goofy-ass nickname based on it. The Clankers.
Alright everyone, it is time for the final clanker mobilization of the 2010s. We're going into a whole new decade.
Nigga was calling his fans a slur for AI back in the 2010s. Now his loyalty and fealty to his fiery owl daddy Stolas was not one of the things Styx was gonna change during his rail clutch arc. Something he would decide to quit besides booze was his hoes. The dark trinity StyxHexenHammer's life has revolved around has been Stolas, booze, and mentally unstable women. Styx's sexual conquest might be the greatest evidence that he might actually be getting some juice from Stolas, because this guy has been getting way more ass than any demon-worshipping hippie from Vermont named Tarl ever should have. I mean, he's been running through them. Not just across state lines either, but across the sea. He had birds nested over in Europa, flying across the Atlantic just to hook up with Stolas' top guy. Bro was really trying to channel his inner King Solomon. We actually know quite a bit about some of the girls Styx was messing with, because several of his exes have congregated within Styx's Kiwi Farms thread to spread all sorts of dirty laundry about Tarl and about each other. While a lot of it is fun to read, it is ultimately just a bunch of bitter, jilted women spreading he said, she said about an ex-boyfriend they can't stand and hate they ever hooked up with. So we're gonna have to pepper any info they share with a mountain of salt unless they come packaged with actual receipts attached like DMs or video, which they rarely do. Still, they do give a good impression of just how messy Styx's life has been behind the scenes and why he had to say sayonara to all of it. And he'd do even more than that. Tarl would tie the knot, and it wouldn't be with any members of his BPD harem. It would be with a cute Dutch YouTuber named Elizabeth Philosophy. This announcement of Styx getting hitched caused several of his already bitter ex-lovers to get even more bitter, but they weren't a concern anymore. Styx was on a new path, and he would even do the unthinkable and finally move out of his parents' house so he could go overseas and settle down with Liz in the Netherlands.
All right, everyone.
Hey guys.
It's time for a little bit of an update here. This is the Netherlands. It is actually the city of Amsterdam. And for those of you who don't know, this is Elizabeth's Philosophy. Actually, my wife. We've gotten married. So.
Styx really had left all the old BS behind him and now had a pretty wife, a new quiet life in Holland, and all while still being a successful content creator and self-publisher.
First and foremost, I would say this. I am happily married. I looked back at the life that I had been leading for, quite some time prior to my marriage, and I was unsatisfied with it. I was a drunken wreck for a lot of it and also kind of neurotic. There were times when I was unfaithful to those that I was with. What I have done is I looked back at my drunken, stupid self, and I decided to make a change. And I decided that because I didn't want to wake up at 40 with cirrhosis. I didn't want to wake up at 50 completely alone. I didn't want to get demented from drinking too much or, get fucked over so no one would ever care about me again. I looked at my life, decided it was on the wrong course, and decided to change.
The rail had been successfully clutched. But then Stolas was like, hey, you know what'd be really funny? Styx's relocation to the Netherlands with Liz initially didn't go as smooth as he hoped, because bro would start putting out SOS tweets not even a year into moving there, saying he needs somebody to save him from Amsterdam. He was so rattled he couldn't even make videos or stream like usual for a little while. I guess there was just something about the beautiful, cultured, low-crime city of Amsterdam that was simply too much for this literal demon worshiper. Tarl saying how tough it was to get situated because he couldn't speak Dutch really goes to show how much of a socially retarded recluse he is. Because if he had tried speaking to any random Dutchman even once, he'd quickly realize you don't really need to know Dutch to navigate the Netherlands as an English speaker, because the Netherlands has an English fluency rate of like 95%. Literally the most English fluent country in the world that doesn't have English as his native language. There's a very strong possibility that the only people Styx interacted with while he was in the Netherlands this whole time was his wife and her family. Oh, and a drug dealer. Styx apparently had a run-in with a drug dealer that had him internet tough guy posting on Twitter about how totally not scared of him he was. Bit weird how the only Dutch local aside from Liz and her family he could interact with was this drug dealer, but whatever. Nothing came of all this crybaby behavior from Styx, and the following year was pretty damn nice for him, all things considered. COVID hit the Netherlands like it hit everywhere else, but considering Styx already worked from home, didn't talk to people besides his wife and her family, and didn't go outside, period, it really didn't affect him that much. 2020 was actually an especially good year for Styx because he got retweeted by Donald Trump himself in October of that year.
All right, everyone, it's time for a fun moment here, which is that the other day I got retweeted by the president, that is President Trump, and when I first got a couple of messages on Twitter saying, oh, congratulations, I'm like, what?
Tarl in return told the orange man with the plan that he had his vote. It didn't help. Still, Styx was really grateful about that retweet because he really needed it. His channel had been losing steam since 2019, and so had his Patreon. After the election from 2021 to 2022, Styx would go an entire year without permanently gaining any subs. In fact, he would slightly lose a few. His channel was stagnant, stuck in stasis. For some reason, Stolas wasn't giving him that same juice he was before. He was leaving his boy a little dry for some reason. But a few blessings still did come Styx's way, with the biggest one being him and Liz having a kid in April of 2022.
All right, everyone, I have very, very happy news. You may have been wondering, oh, it's kind of late, Styx hasn't uploaded. I am now a father. Our daughter was indeed born this morning.
This really was the crescendo of StyxHexenHammer 666's life. He was happily married in Europe with a pretty wife, a little girl, and a stable, albeit stagnant income. His channel wasn't booming like it was before, but he still got decent views on his vids and streams. It was still moving a good number of books each month. It looked like things couldn't get better for Tarl. And they didn't. Tarl would live his dream life for another year and a half after his daughter's birth before he had to abruptly head back to the States. Initially, he and Liz portrayed this as a temporary thing, not even a separation really. It was just Styx going back to America for a holiday or something. But people started noticing that Styx's wedding ring finger was awfully naked in his newer vids. Despite reassurances from Liz and Styx, he had in fact permanently returned to the United States.
All right, everyone, I'm back, literally back in the USSA. I've had a very bizarre experience the last few days, it's crazy, actually.
Now, Styx would put out some cryptic-ass tweets about vindictive exes near the end of 2023, and when pressed about what was going on, said he was assaulted by a drug dealer and forced to leave the Netherlands because of it, which is just insane. So let me get this straight. You apparently got either fucked up or just pressed really hard by a drug dealer like you're Ziggy from The Wire, supposedly the same drug dealer you were seething about before, and instead of reporting this drug dealer who's threatening your life to the Dutch authorities? You just caught a flight back to safety across the Atlantic and didn't bring your family with you? You just left your wife and kid in the same city where this dangerous drug dealer threatening your life and has it out for you is still living. Sorry, Taro, but this story just ain't adding up. There are alternate retellings of Styx' relocation story that make more sense, with the most popular one being that Styx fell back into his old vices, boozing it up and flirting with women behind his lady's back. Now look, when you're a bachelor with no kids, getting drunk all the time and cheating on your girl is one thing. Once you get married and have a kid, expectations for your behavior change. But apparently Taro disagrees. Another theory comes from one of Styx's many vindictive exes who post on the Kiwi Farms, Jade. Jade said that Styx had once gotten so drunk one night that he ended up putting Liz in a headlock. This resulted in a male relative of Elizabeth laying hands on Taro in return and teaching him to keep his to himself. And Styx ran away from Europe in fear. Yeah, we got nothing to really corroborate this story of Jade's beside Jade's own words. Jade has met Liz in person, but Elizabeth herself hasn't lobbed any accusations like this against Styx. So this is ultimately just more he said, she said. Again, while it's interesting and fun to read the slander Taro's former girlfriends and side pieces share about him, you gotta take what they say with a grain of salt. I will say, based on what would transpire later about Styx, this story of Jade's isn't 100% unbelievable, but less because Taro showed us that he was on some Ike Turner type timing and liked to play rock'em sock'em with women, and more because he showed us that when he's away from his parents and is in the presence of alcohol of questionable quality and women of even more questionable quality, Styx makes very, very unwise decisions. Styx did not waste any time whatsoever when it came to getting back into the field after abruptly separating from his family back in Europe. His new girlfriend was one Samantha Keister. Well, she wasn't really new. She was an old flame of Styx from before he got married. And she is nuts, bro. For starters, she has been one of the girlfriends of Taro who have been part of his Kiwi Farms thread for pretty much as long as the thread's been around under the name Lalith, and she's shared tons of info, not just about Styx and some of his other exes, but also about herself. She literally doxed herself in another person's Kiwi Farms thread. Now, this isn't unique to her. A lot of Taro's girlfriends have overshared information about themselves in this thread. Now, because Sam was so gracious as to dox herself, we know that she herself was also married and separated from her own family prior to her linking up with Styx. She also lost custody of her kids, which you damn near gotta be slitting your own wrist in front of the judge to do if you're a woman in a custody battle. Again, to be fair to Sam, she's not the only woman Styx has been involved with who lost a custody battle. Stolas' top guy really knows how to pick him. Now, another thing, and this is according to Sam, who is nuts, she almost had another kid with Taro, but Taro coerced her into drinking Mission Abort tea and sending future Lil Man off to the heavenly server in the sky. Despite this initial rough and tumble romance with Styx, Sam was still possessive enough about his dick to try and convince him that Elizabeth was up to no good and that he should split up from her. That Liz was just a Lilith, a Jezebel, a Delilah looking to trim Styx's powerful flowing mane while his guard was down and force him to live a happy, peaceful family life in Europe. These home-wrecking harlot tactics of hers didn't work, but she did eventually get her wish anyway, because not only did Styx and Liz end up splitting ways, Sam got the privilege of being Taro's rebound chick, and she get to hog plenty of his hog and his attention, because despite a few trips back to the Netherlands in early 2025, it didn't look like Styx was paying that much attention to his wife or even his daughter, with Liz tweeting out one day, "Never trust or respect anyone that does not take care of their own children." Man, I wonder what could prompt a single mother to say something like that. This all made Styx and Sam two peas in a pod, or more accurately, two poor parents in a doomed relationship. The signs that there'd be trouble in paradise came as early as September of 2024, when Styx got a little too tipsy and handsy with Samantha.
Hey, this is my darling. Yes.
You done?
Now,
Okay.
Ooh, that's a Hall of Fame ick moment right there. It really takes a lot to get a woman you're in a relationship with to make a face like that. Styx's reaction to other people's reaction to his poor actions was to deflect all accountability onto alcohol and lack of sleep.
Yeah, some people want to troll me over my live stream last night. Look, I was completely punch drunk. Again, I've had 20 hours of fucking sleep in the last week. If I act a little bit weird or something like that, there's probably a reason for it. I can't help it.
Yeah, he just couldn't help it. The booze possessed him. They call it spirits for a reason, you know. Styx also said right after this,
I've had insomnia since I was a little kid.
which I found very interesting because Styx also said that Stolas came into his life as a kid. Man, so around the time you started developing sleeping problems was also around the same time you started seeing demons. Just kinda odd how he's never made any sort of connection there. Like maybe the demon owl he swears is his infernal best friend doesn't have his best interest in mind? Nah, come on, Stolas, the demon, having bad intentions? Bruh, that's the homie. He would never. Tarl is his top guy. That's why he walks around swagged out in that Vizzy Pop Stolas merch. And no, I am not joking. Styx loves Vizzy Pop's version of Stolas. He's not just a LARPer or bandwagoner who just buys the merch. He has genuinely watched the show and gave it a glowing review.
Hell of a Boss is an animated series by Vivzy Pop and is quite interesting. A lot of it is just like, it's an animated series, so it's fictional. Very entertaining. I really like the musical score so far. I like the plot line. The characters are funny. It's deeper and better than virtually any comparison that I could make in the contemporary sense. I do like that Stolas particularly was the demon that was chosen as being one of the main protagonists within the series. I'm not gonna lie. You should definitely watch the fucking series from pilot to the recent episode and await the one this weekend.
When it comes to Stolas, Styx has literally said that he puts all of his faith in him and trusts him to guide him through each new chapter of his life. That was probably a bad idea. Because as it turns out, when you're an alcoholic, deadbeat, insomniac who's as addicted to his vices as he is to BPD pussy, and you give the keys to your life to a fucking demon owl, bad things tend to happen. It all started tumbling down in late September when Styx took a trip to New Orleans with Samantha.
And to MMJ, no, I have not, and I don't give a shit what people post about me online. It literally means nothing to me. I'm about to go on vacation, dude. I don't give a shit.
Styx would do what his boozer ass did best and empty a few too many bottles, which got him in his feelings, as drinking a lot tends to do. He then got in a heated argument with Samantha, who was stressing him out, as borderline brides also tend to do. These factors, among earlier ones, all coalesced together into what would snowball into a disaster for Tarl, because this motherfucker would throw his phone near Samantha and hit her in the face and make her nose bleed.
You've made your bed, now lay in it. I don't care if you're crying. It makes no difference to me. You've treated me like absolute shit this entire time. I'm 1,000 miles away from my home with a person who apparently I can't trust at all as my guide. Do you know how that feels?
Styx would then be arrested, charged with domestic abuse and battery, and have to spend a week in a New Orleans jail where he may or may not have been jailhouse rocked by a Cajun crackhead.
Alright everyone, talk about weird times. You probably were wondering where I was for an entire week. Actually, I was in jail. Don't worry, I'm gonna have no problem with the charges.
He wouldn't be behind bars for too long. Jeremy Hambley, of all people, would bail him out.
Jeremy, Styx still greatly appreciates you for bailing him out in NOLA. Yeah, well, I never got that money back.
The moment Styx's exes learned about what happened, they started popping champagne. Christmas came 3 months early. They were out here serving demonic levels of cunt over Tarl's misery.
Good morning. It seemed fitting to have a clanking spoon and a leather jacket on. for this video.
All part of Stolas' plan, I guess. Now, Styx has assured us this was not his fault. It wasn't his stupidity. It was Sam's, or the cops, or just the alcohol, making him act a little quirky again. But look, dude, if you're out here accidentally breaking noses whenever you get sloshed, it might be time to put the bottle down for good, take a step back, and reassess things. Tragically, Styx would do none of these things because his agency had long since been stolen by two things: whatever drink was in his hand at the moment, and the owl nigga he sold his soul to. And the owl nigga in question had just thought up something else that would be really funny. Styx's poor choices resulted in one of the most devastating personal losses in his life. Being separated from his daughter, man, who cares about that? I'm talking about the state taking his firearms away for him getting in trouble with the law. Taro, being the eccentric and defiant libertarian that he is, couldn't stand the fact that the glowies took his guns away, so he decided, fine, you want to treat me like an outlaw? I'll show you what an outlaw actually looks like, and started dressing like a fucking pirate. I guess his logic was that, hey, the pigs say I can't own guns. Gunpowder weapons are still on the table. Oh, I can't own a Glock? Well, guess what? I got that revolutionary blicky on me. That 1776 boomstick. That Davy Jones chopper. You know, I said before that Styx isn't a LARPer and takes all the quirky things he does very seriously. This is probably the first time where he was actually LARPing. He was RPing as a pirate to spite the law. And not just any pirate either. His occult nerd autism wouldn't stop at something even that straightforward. He was going to play pretend to be a vampire pirate.
Alright everyone, it's time for the occult video 411, Chaos and Energy Vampirism. Because of course, I'm a vampire.
StyxHexenHammer 666 is a real menace, cause he can both blow you and suck you away. And this wasn't just something he did for a week or the better part of a month. Carl has stayed committed to this vampire persona to this day, making videos, streaming, and walking around his parents' house dressed like a Pirates of the Caribbean extra, complete with a cutlass on his waist. He also continues to get every day, because can you really call yourself a pirate if you're not borderline blackout drunk anytime you're not plundering for booty or getting your booty plundered? Styx has always had a drinking problem. Even he would tell you that. It's part of the reason why he initially had to stop drinking altogether a few years back. But post separation from his wife, his drinking habits have gotten worse and worse and worse, to the point he's even discombobulated at times when he's doing his content. An ironically positive side effect of this is that he finally managed to cure his insomnia.
And it's not a guess. I live here. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's just the truth of it.
And not a point to you, this candidate now for, weeks and weeks on end now. So clearly, the whole Republican party machine isn't.
What's funny is that despite going into 2025 with all these problems and shenanigans, his charges, his chaotic love life, him being estranged from his family back in Europe, and his YouTube channel continuing to underperform, Styx never stopped believing in a big guy downstairs. As a matter of fact, the opposite happened. Styx started repping Stolas' colors even harder, genuinely believing that through his own hexes and Stolas' power, he was bringing about chaos magic to destroy his enemies.
Alright everyone, New Orleans has been buried in snow. Yes, the kids are frolicking around. I'm assuming all of the schools are closed at the moment, and building snowmen. How coincidental.
Styx 100% believes this was all him and Stolas. You see, Styx isn't an ordinary black mage or warlock. No, he's a magician of chaos.
Now you can do energetic work. I do it best when I'm in nature or when I'm laying in bed. I do chaos magic. I filter energy through myself and I bombard a chosen target. Now the effect
can be unpredictable. There have been a few lately that I haven't bothered talking about, for example.
Not to be confused with a Magician of Black Chaos, or a Magician of Black Chaos Max, or Dark Magician of Chaos, or Black Chaos to Dark Chaos Magician. His chaos magic has reached such a degree of mastery that, like the high-level warlock he is, Styx has created his own grimoire.
All of the literary works that I've ever endeavored on have been released to the public. I've edited over 400 works, mostly about occult topics, and occasionally a little bit of other stuff. I've written dozens of works, mostly political, actually, other than my occult compilations and stuff like that. But now, I'm writing my own grimoire. I'm documenting all of my various magical experiments, ceremonies, there'll be herbalism, everything. It's going to be a bric-a-brac. But this one's not going to be for public consumption. This particular book is for my daughter, actually. We are occult royalty through blood.
And he also uses his chaos magic, bolstered by Stolas, to warp reality to his will, allowing him to not only control the weather, but also kill niggas.
I've been experimenting with chaos magic, and I believe that I've figured out how to actually utilize it properly. But again, I'm just superstitious and delusional. If I were praying to your god, that would be totally normal. He would, he would have his ear out. What do you want? And stuff like that. Your god can save you from disease, save you in battle, save your soul, actually. But I'm incapable of doing anything myself. It's completely impossible. When the Deputy Attorney General decides to off himself in his own office, again, total coincidence, even though it was within 2 hours of me landing in New Orleans the last time. These are coincidences.
Carl Warwick thinks that he's Light Yagami and Stolas is his Ryuk. And there might be a little something to that chaos dark wizardry he keeps yapping about, because somehow he managed to beat his case.
Alright, I'm so sorry for all of the people that dislike me. How sad. Case dismissed. Yeah, go fuck yourself. Yes, I went in for a jury draw today, actually, in a Vermont case, pending legal action, and case just got dismissed out of hand. Which is not a huge surprise, actually, because I did absolutely nothing wrong.
But that would be the end of Styx's devilish streak of good luck. It's become very obvious that Styx's mental health isn't in the right place anymore. One of the best examples of this, besides all the obvious stuff, is how he continues interacting with his harem of deranged side pieces who've brought him nothing but problems. He even goes into his own Kiwi Farms thread specifically to argue, neg, and flirt with them on occasion. Styx is really a guy where sobriety and celibacy would do him a whole lot of good. But instead, he insists on involving himself with women he should be leaving alone. Like Sam, who he wasn't even supposed to be talking to because they had a no contact order.
I was gonna ask you, what's been the worst part, I guess, about the whole thing?
The worst part about this whole thing, being apart from my girlfriend, because I'm not allowed to talk to her under court order.
He would also continue to pay Sam's rent even while she was actively litigating against him and wasn't even sleeping with him anymore. All that schmoozing he was doing didn't amount to anything because Sam would get Styx arrested again, this time on a negligent discharge charge.
Good morning, folks. I'm Officer Plackett. I'm with the Rutland Town Police Department. Tarl, can you come over and speak with me, please? Do you have any weapons on you, sir?
Yes, I have a machete.
Okay, can you discard that for me?
I just had a case dismissed for violation of police. And who did I assault?
I'm sorry?
Just dismissed his case yesterday. They just dismissed my case.
And Samantha Keister is the complainant?
I don't think that there is. Yes, please do report this. The evidence related to discharge.
Now I know what some of you might be wondering. Mikey, can you really get arrested for negligent discharge with a gunpowder weapon? Yes, you actually can, believe it or not. But that wasn't why Styx was arrested. He was arrested for an older situation with a firearm from a year prior. Now, he wasn't pointing it at anyone and he didn't hit anybody, but somebody got in touch with the authorities and told them that Taro was up to no good. Sam was using a classic strategy bitter women in ghettos and trailer parks all across America were masters of, using the legal system to destroy a dude she was letting smash just a couple months ago. Styx's problems would hit their pinnacle in 2026. In February of this year, just a few months ago, Styx would get in another scuffle with a woman in his orbit. Nikki. Nikki is unstable woman in Tara Warwick's roster number 87 or whatever. She, like the others, has terrible taste in men and makes poor decisions regarding her love life on the regular. In particular, she has a bad habit of doing that thing lesbians do where they move in with somebody the weekend after they started hooking up with them. Such was the case with Taro before this drama went down. They were shacked up together at Styx's parents' house. She's the lady who's right there when Styx got arrested at his parents' house. Ironically, Styx's third encounter with 12 in less than 2 years would be from Nikki giving him that 1-2 and breaking his teeth.
I'm not the one who called, but I'm the one who needs to leave, and I'm the one who needs emergency services.
Okay.
I have nowhere to go. I've been living here with Taro Warwick. He's the one with domestic violence history.
Mm-hmm. No,
I did hit him because he threatened me. I batted him. Just because I'm so afraid and I have nowhere to go. I really need some help.
Okay.
She flat out decked me because she said that I woke her up, and then she just punched me in the fucking face.
Yeah.
And tooth is probably gonna fall out at some point, and my nose was not doing so well.
Nikki had the exalted honor of being the only girlfriend of Styx to get arrested instead of Styx himself. Despite Nikki being out of the picture, things did not get better for Taro because he didn't show up to court. Styx, in a shamelessly desperate attempt to avoid facing the music, has also been lying about having seizures so he wouldn't have to appear in court. Instead, he sends Mama Hexenhammer to go in his place and tries to delay the inevitable consequences of his goofy actions. He just thought it was dumb and not worth his time. Well, the state didn't like that answer, so they put out warrants for his arrest. StyxHexenHammer 666, as of me making this video, is literally a fugitive with a bounty on his head. So where is Styx now? Did he flee north to Canada, maybe to make a pirate hideout off of one of the coves of Newfoundland? Nah, he just headed down to New York to shack up with a new chick who's letting him hide out there despite her also living with her parents. Hey, at least he finally found the motivation to get out of his parents' house. Ironically, he's more of a man-child now than he ever was while staying with them.
All right, everyone, I wanted to talk about adulting and growing up, growing mature and things like that. I refuse. I think it's a bad idea. I think that growing up sounds tedious. It sounds like a bad proposition. I'm not interested in being an adult. I'm not interested in being mature. Who would want to? God, it must be a fate worse than death. Jesus Christ.
And this is the current state, the ongoing arc of Tara Warwick as of me making this vid. A wanted outlaw who refuses to grow up and be a functional member of decent society, who's estranged from and unconcerned with his family overseas, whose teeth are jacked, who looks dirty, grimy, and dusty all of the time, who gets drunk every other night, and who's living off of a woman who's infatuated with his retarded swashbuckling antics. So he's like an actual genuine pirate now. If that's not chaos magic at work, I don't know what is. A lot of people will point out that the downfall of StyxHexenHammer isn't the traditional one you witness from popular YouTubers. And yeah, it's definitely not your typical Wings of Redemption-esque downfall. It comes off as very Faustian. It's the story of a man who bargained with a dark deity who initially appeared benevolent, who gained money, influence, stability, and a family that he gradually all lost as the guardian spirit he made a pact with started leaving him on red and watched him wither away. Sounds kind of tragic. Until you watch a video of this dude dressed up as a pirate and telling you not to eat your vegetables, and then you just start laughing. What's funny is that Styx is still doing his job. He's still putting the political commentary videos in the bag. Maybe if he just stopped drinking, stop acting like a dirty sea dog, and get better taste in women, he could possibly recover over the next few years. Maybe even clean himself up and become a somewhat respectable dude again by the time his daughter reaches the age where she can fully recognize what a pathetic loser her dad is. Clutching that rail again is something that's up to him and nobody else, except maybe Stolas. Ultimately, the moral of Tara Warwick's story is, don't make deals with demons. Just a friendly PSA.
And what's been the best part about it? If there has been the best part.
Getting sober. Though there is a good part. Getting sober. I had been a drinker for a very long time. I had been drinking for years. I haven't had a drink since I got out of jail. And so now I'm stone cold sober, and I'm very, very happy. If you are a drinker, fucking stop. Just stop. Cold turkey. Don't worry about it. Just stop.